everyone. Welcome to the Decode Innovation Conference 2023. Super excited to welcome all of you. My name is Sejal Goyal, and I'm thrilled to be your host MC for today. Over the next few hours, we will be delving into groundbreaking ideas, disruptive innovations, and the limitless potential of the tech industry. In today's rapidly evolving world, technology is at the forefront of change and driving innovation as well as reshaping industries. All of us here have a common passion for pushing the boundaries for what is possible. Throughout the day, we will hear from brilliant minds, industry pioneers, and disruptors who have had the courage to dream big and take risks. We will touch upon how the latest developments in technology are yet again giving us the opportunity and perhaps urgency to unlock our human advantage. But this conference is not just about ideas, it's also about action. It's about forging partnerships, fostering innovation, and driving meaningful change in the world. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned professional, or just a curious observer, this event is an opportunity for you to connect, learn, and contribute to the global conversation around entrepreneurship and technology. To help you achieve that, we have arranged roundtable sessions, which are an amazing opportunity for you to meet the speakers in a small group setting of around 10 people. They will be taking place concurrently to the conference in the back over there. So for everyone who is registered for the roundtable sessions, I request that you try and be seated in this general area just to minimize disruptions throughout the conference, as well as try to be a little bit quiet when you are making your way to the roundtables. Please find a volunteer if you haven't yet signed up for a roundtable but would like to, or if you just have any other questions, they should be wearing a badge like this which says staff. After hearing from our amazing lineup of speakers today, we will be ending the day with a fireside chat with Ben Smith, who is a former VP and technical advisor to the CEO of Google. To conclude our conference, we will have an AMA session with Decode's board featuring Esther Wojcicki, who is also a Berkeley alum, go Bears, but also widely known as the godmother of Silicon Valley, because not only did she start the largest journalism program in the United States, she also taught students like Steve Jobs' kids, and is the mother to three aspiring daughters, the CEO of YouTube, CEO of 23andMe, and a professor at UCSF Pediatrics. So make sure to stick around to ask her questions as well as questions to the rest of the board of Decode. Last, but definitely not the least, I want to warmly welcome all of you and thank our sponsors, speakers, attendees, and volunteers for putting in the time and effort to make this possible. Now, without further ado, let me welcome our opening keynote speaker, Dan Himmelstein. Dan has worked in a variety of organizational settings, ranging from the large and complex to the small and entrepreneurial. In the business world, Dan has extensive international experience, having worked with numerous startups as a founder, executive, director, and consultant, and in a number of corporate settings as well. In academia, Dan is currently a faculty member at the University of California, Berkeley, Berkeley's Haas School of Business, and the College of Engineering's Funk Institute for Leadership. He has also held key leadership posts at Berkeley and the University of San Francisco. At Berkeley, he has served as the executive director of the Haas School's undergraduate program and as the associate vice provost for academic planning and facilities in the office of the chancellor. At USF, he was the executive associate dean at the School of Management. Dan received his BS from the Haas School of Business at the University of California, Berkeley, and his MSc from the London School of Economics. Amazing, welcoming Dan. I hope all of you are excited.
Thank you very much. I'm a little worried about the brilliant mind thing she said about bringing brilliant minds here. I'm not sure we're starting off with one, but hopefully we'll get a build over the rest of the day, so to speak. So first of all, I see a lot of familiar faces, students and things like that, so thank you for coming. And for all of you that are coming back to Berkeley or new to Berkeley, welcome to the campus. When Will and Teen first talked to me about doing the keynote speak, I have to say that I was pretty skeptical. I'm not really a soaring tech conference kind of person, with all due respect. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about the newest technology either saving the world or destroying the world. I'm much more convinced that the faculty will destroy the university more than ChatGPT. So I had to think about how I could fit this in and talk about the things that I think are important from my experience that might be relevant to you, and just something else to consider besides just, again, the soaring speech, it's going to change the world, it's not going to change the world. So one of the things the thing that really got me was the topic of unlocking our human advantage. That's something that has always interested me, right? Probably more than the technology itself. So whether it was on the athletic field or doing early stage companies or teaching students, I've thought a lot about over the years about how do we get that extra 0.5% or 1% or 1.5% out of everybody? And if we multiply it by 50 or 100 or 1,000 or 5,000, what difference does that make, right? So that's something I've thought a lot about. My wife and I also talk, she's very interested in human behavior too. And one of the things we talk a lot about, and it's hard to do as a human being, we react emotionally to things. We can't control what people do. We can only control our reaction to it. And I think that's also very true for technology as well, despite the emotions, right? We can't control that it's going to be out there or it may be game changing, but we can control how we think about it and what we do about it, right? Some of us have more control than others, right? Here in the Silicon Valley, we have more leverage, more resources, more things to do those kinds of things. There's billions of the people on the planet who live below the poverty line who don't have any control over it. But we're here amongst people that do have some control, so let's talk a little bit about that, I think. So I'm going to give you an example from my business experience, not related to AI, but going back 30 years or so to the advent of the internet. So I founded my first company in 1994, and it was an international trade service company. It was a service company. We did a lot of business around the globe in several dozen countries. And I know it's hard to believe, but we weren't all connected on the internet around the globe, and we were, on phone modems and doing all kinds of things. And I don't know if any of you know of the name Sky Dayton, but some of you who have been around the tech world for a while. So Sky started a company called Earthlink in 1994, or 93 maybe, which was one of the first, ISPs, and built it pretty big. But just to humble Sky, even though I don't know him outside of being on the phone with him many times, I was on the phone a lot with Sky in 1994, 95. My company, I think, was one of his first customers. And we were spending a lot of time every day having him tell me which IP addresses I need to put into my computer so I could connect to my phone modem so I could have connectivity to the internet. But one of the things that happened as I was thinking about that and having the opportunity to talk to a young, brilliant mind is as the company started to build a little bit, our business model was to have independent contractors all over the world to do the projects for us. And there were 3 reasons for that. One is service businesses are very cyclical, and early stage service businesses are even more cyclical. And we did not want to have, when we were busy, we'd try to build that way, but if we were slow, which was a lot at the beginning, we didn't want to have to lay off full-time people, right? The second reason is if you're doing international business, you can also hire people abroad who have local knowledge and track records and things like that. That would make it easier to do business in that particular country. And the third reason, I'm a business person, a lot of times it was less expensive, right? So it was a cost advantage as well, right? No different than people go make toys overseas, right? So to speak. So, but one of the things we decided in 1995, about a year into it, and my idea behind this is how does technology help you to get even a short-term sustainable advantage, right? New technology, everybody's going to catch up eventually, right? 2, 3 years, 4 years, whatever, everybody's going to have the same stuff. The cell phone is a commodity, right? The internet is a commodity. AI will be a commodity someday. So we thought a lot about how we could become more competitive, how we could lower our cost structure, but more importantly, how we could communicate with people across the board, across the world better, because communication was expensive in those days. I mean, if I called Quito, Ecuador at 10 a.m. in the morning, it might have been $75 a minute to have a phone conversation, okay? So we were thinking about how do we be competitive, how we could lower our cost structure, how we could communicate better. And so what we decided to do is we decided to make a capital investment. We decided to buy internet service for every one of our independent contractors around the globe. These are not full-time employees, by the way, okay? They didn't work for us 40, 50, 60 hours a week. Some of them were working for us 2 hours a week. But we made a decision, kind of like solar panels. We're going to make a big, humongous investment up front, and we're going to see what happens. It seems today like, what are you talking about, right? There were countries that did not have an internet service provider at that particular time, and we would have to buy ISP service from a neighboring country, at least in the short run. But what we thought is it would help us in the ways I've talked about. Our rules were very followed. You could use it for whatever you wanted, right? It didn't have to just be on our projects, right? It could be on anything else. Just please don't break the law. Our name's on the contract, and I don't know if anybody did, but we never had that kind of situation. So it did improve our communication. I do think it gave us a sustainable advantage in the short run anyway. It did lower our cost structure. But in the context of like this unlocking our human advantage thing, there was something that happened that we didn't anticipate, okay? And I think that's also a very interesting thing about technology or anything else, is all the things you don't anticipate even though you think you know what you're talking about. So we knew the sort of the business model competitive advantage would run out at a certain amount of time. Everybody else would be doing the same thing as we were, right? Year down the road, 2 years down the road, 3 years, whatever it was. But one of the interesting things that's happened as our business was growing, we got busier. We had to hire more people more often or use people more hours. And one of the things about doing an outsource model is it potentially can limit your growth if you're really busy, because you don't have full-time staff sitting around waiting to take on projects. So we occasionally were running into situations where that was happening to us. Even if we had to onboard a new independent contractor, that might take some time. So we would go back to our existing people, right, and ask them if they could do it. And the thing that we didn't anticipate, again, in this unlocking our human advantage thing, is a lot of them, almost all of them, would do 10 extra hours a week for us, 5 extra hours a week for us, 3 extra hours a week for us. You know why? Because we unlocked things for them, not just related to our company, for other projects they were working on, whether they were talking to their girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever it was, right? They got something out of it, right? We didn't anticipate that at all. Like, we didn't even think about it. Like, I'd like to say we were really brilliant people when we thought about it. We didn't think about it at all, right? We just thought this was going to make good business sense for us, save us money, communicate better, make our projects work more efficiently, whatever it might be. So, but that was really an important part of our business, funny enough, is providing this for these people, unlocking our advantage, but unlocking their advantage as well, and then finding ways to sync on it. And that really helped us at sometimes grow when we probably wouldn't have been able to grow, if that makes sense. So I think there are a lot of opportunities like that out there in the world. They're not sexy, right? They're not ChatGPT, right? They're not all of these things, but there's a lot of things that are going on out there that are going to unlock our human advantage that we're not even going to see. There's probably people in this room that are thinking about ideas that is not going to get into the New York Times or get on social media or whatever it might be, but it's going to make a huge difference in our lives. I don't know if it's going to save the world or destroy the world. I'm not here for that speech. Somebody else will do that later, okay? So my last thought on this would be, somebody asked me the other day, what kind of companies are you looking at, like in this AI world, right? And I think it's less for me about like what companies I'm looking at the AI world. It's companies I've always looked at whenever there's a new technology. In my international experience, I had a lot of experience on the cost side, manufacturing, distribution, supply chain, logistics, that kind of stuff. And where I think a lot of things will be happening, they already are and they've been happening for years, is in those areas. Just kind of like I bought internet service for my independent contractors, there's companies out there that are thinking about supply chains and logistics and distribution and all of those kind of things that you don't think about much. You just care that Amazon delivered your product to you in 2 hours, right? Fair enough. But, I think it's going to affect like last mile type of stuff as well, humongously, right? So that last mile, that last 1 or 2%. So those are the kind of companies I look at that whenever a new technology comes out. And the last thing I'll say, I know I only have a minute or so left, is in my mind, I get back to that 1 or 2 or 3%, right? We're all thinking, you know, as a business person or even as a human being, look, I'd love to improve everybody's performance 50%, right? I'd love to improve my company's performance 50%. But as you're sitting day to day managing cash flow, that's not really what's happening, right? Okay? So the things that can improve your team's performance, your individual people's performance by 1/10 of 1%, 1/5 of 1%, whatever it might be, and you scale that, you multiply it, you think about it the same way you think about selling your products or service, right? We think about scaling our products or services all the time. We don't always think about doing that. We're going to have 50% year-over-year growth, right? So I think you need to think about it the same way with human beings or the use of technology as it relates to human beings, is how do I incrementally build more in each person? I multiply it together, and that's what we get when we get our unlocking our human advantage. Thank you.